Hello and welcome to the August 2016 edition of the Marks Group Goldmine Tips and Tricks webinar. We put on these tips and tricks webinars once a month. You can always see our tips and tricks from ages past by going to blog.marksgroup.net. So what are we looking at this week? A couple of different things. We're going to look at how to comment pick list items and how to comment those pesky 3-character codes that people love to use with their gold mines. We're going to look at how to log field history. Why would we ever want to do this? Is it a good idea? We're also going to look at defining menu items, something that we can do on a per user basis. Let's go ahead and jump right into Goldmine. Hopefully. And here we are. So let's talk about commenting pick list items. So what do I mean by pick list? A pick list is just this weird little pick list you get whenever you click into a field and you hit the little gray arrow. Now, a pick list can take one of two forms. It can be a calendar. In this case, this is a date field. The pick list will always appear as a calendar when you're using a date field. Or it can look like a just list of stuff. In this case, our industry field. We have a couple of different things here. Now, what's nice about the pick list is that you can actually comment pick list items. And this would allow you to elaborate on what any particular pick list item choice should mean. Where this really shines, however, is actually when you go to complete, say, a history item. In this case, we're going to complete a call. Outgoing call, doesn't really matter. And we'll go ahead and we'll give it a reference. We'll say this was our first prospect call. Very good. So now we were going to deal with these code and result boxes. People just love to use these with their Goldmine. I see probably 85 to 90% of my client base actively using, at the very least, the result box here. The code, in my humble opinion, can be overkill depending upon, I guess, what you're doing. Again, just to be crystal clear, these code and result fields are completely optional. They don't really mean anything to Goldmine, but they only mean things to us. So if you're doing things like reporting on these values, then it could be entirely reasonable to use these. Where people get into trouble is not exactly the idea of using these fields. Where people get into trouble is when they start having 1,000 3-letter codes in here. What do they mean? And that's all well and good for, say, management or for from whomever created the codes. But for those brand new Goldmine users, this can be quite a challenge. And what you get, unfortunately, is that when codes aren't clearly commented, when they aren't clearly explained to the end user picks the wrong one, and your reporting can then be skewed. And that kind of blows up the whole system. So in this case, you'll see that for each 3-letter code, I have a double slash, and then the actual thing that the code means. So everything after my double slash is going to be ignored. So we'll go ahead and we'll make a new item. We'll say, we'll call this an appointment follow-up. So again, anything and including the forward slashes here is going to be ignored. So when I select that, well, of course, if there's only room in there for the 3 characters, but you get the idea. If I was using the comment in a longer field, like the industry field, which I referenced earlier, then truly you would be able to see that nothing after the double slashes will get added to the field. This can really make it easy on the brand new Goldmine user. Okay, very good. Moving right along to logging field history. So what do I mean by logging field history? Well, for every one of these fields, you can see here that I've done some pretty extensive crappy customization because my contact record is a mess. But for every field on the contact record, I have a bunch of properties that I can edit. So in this case, let's look at customer type. And I'm actually going to move customer type over here to its righteous place of honor, somewhere a little more outstanding than the left-hand part of the screen. Customer type is typically a very important field in Goldmine. Now, what this typically tracks is what kind of customer or what kind of contact record this is. Now, the big things to look at here are maybe prospect, customer, and dead or disqualified. And this can be like a pro tip for some of you folks out there. I rarely see a dead or a disqualify as a contact type in people's gold mines. And consequently, what I also see is that gold mines that are like 5 and 6 and 10 years old have an extreme amount of just garbage contact records because no one ever gave the sales personnel the ability to mark a garbage contact as a garbage contact. Just food for thought. So let's go ahead and talk about logging the changes to this field in history. So this would be, in my humble opinion, a good example of a field to use in logging history. The reason is because it's a very important field and it's not likely to change that much. You'll see what I mean as we get into this. So if I go to my setup here, and if you're missing your setup button here, that means you're not a master user. Sorry, got to be a master user. So what we want to do here is not here. Oh, tell me I screwed that up. I totally screwed that up. What we want to do is right-click on the field itself and go to Properties. Okay, so now you caught me out screwing up, so now I got to go back there. What I was actually poking around in there was the setup for the pick list. There's a lot of cool things here about the pick list, and some things you might want to visit before you start doing things like logging changes in field history. Boy, I'm embarrassed. You can say allow or disallow blank input, or force or not force a valid input. Anyway, feel free to poke around there at your own leisure. What I'm really after is my field properties, which is a right click here, and a properties here. And we're going to go over to the security tab. Now, on the security tab, a couple of interesting yet very sharp tools to worry about here. What we're after is to actually log changes in history, which is turned on or off. You'll notice that mine was already turned on, which is actually not the default position. It comes out of the box with all of these logging changes off. I must have done this at an earlier point. A couple other things to play with here which might be of interest are the read and update rights. Again, this is on a per field basis. Use at your own peril. The read rights not so much, but the update rights, you want to make sure that you understand how your contact record is asking the end user for things. So what I often see in the field is people will force or will actually have update rights for, say, only the master, yet the field, the underlying pick list, will require a valid input from the end user, yet rendering it impossible to update the field, putting them in this weird gold mine loop that they can't break out of. So just, again, use this stuff with care. We'll leave that as public for now. So when this is turned to log changes in history, what happens? So on the change of this field, so if this guy becomes a customer to dead, thusly, I can now go to my history or client history, and you'll see here that every time this field changes, I get a log, and that shows up as an other activity type. And then what you see here in the actual notes, you can see what the previous type was. You should be able to. Yeah, okay, customer type dead to customer, and there you go. Customer type, customer to dead. We played around with the record, so it's a little confusing. But this kind of illustrates one of the pitfalls I wanted to show you guys, was that when you turn this thing on, it's all well and good, because typically, here's how the conversation goes. Someone changed the phone number on this record, or someone changed the field on this record, and they shouldn't have. So now I want to catch the next person that changes this field on a contact record. So they call me on the phone and say, Justin, how do we do this? And I turn on the field history for this field. So now they can see when Snidely Whiplash changes the phone number to the wrong area code, they're going to know who did it and when. And you do. But what happens is that when you think about a typical client history tab, there's going to be emails, and then just the emails alone, right? But phone calls and next actions and document merges and all kinds of crap in here. So it can really add a lot to the noise or the clutter that you can typically see in a client history tab. So again, just sometimes a dab will do you. Sometimes less is more, and certainly always use with care. You can always turn it off by going back to your field properties. Again, that's a right click, and field properties, over to my security tab, and I can turn that off. Now, what you're going to want to do is whenever you're kind of screwing around with pick lists or field properties, you want to have your end users restart their gold mines to get that change, just to make sure. Some things require a restart in Goldmine and others don't. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes what does and what doesn't. When in doubt, restart that bad boy. Okay, let us briskly move right along to defining menu items. What do I mean by that? I'm kind of wondering if you guys can see this other stuff that I'm doing behind the scenes. At any rate, defining menu items. So out of the box, Goldmine comes with like everything turned all the way up or all the way on, right? And there is stuff in here that I've probably only clicked once or twice, and that was only because a user asked me what it did and I didn't know. No one uses 100% of Goldmine. Typically see it landed around maybe 50%. That'd be for a heavy user. I would say around 30%. I mean, you have calendaring, contact management, and history, because now the email is kind of typically offloaded to Outlook in a lot of environments nowadays. So you have that tripod there. So what you typically see in the field, and I'm always thinking about, because I'm always interacting with that brand new Goldmine user, I'm always thinking about that brand new Goldmine user and the issues that they have. They're confused by the codes because no one knows what the hell they mean, which is why we talk about commenting those those codes. So now we're going to talk about removing some of the things from the Goldmine menu item which just don't mean anything to the end user. For example, this tools menu. Wow, a lot of stuff in here can really ruin a good day. Now, what you're going to want to typically do is when you create a brand new user, which I guess we'll talk about that now, go to Tools, and our user management is in our user settings here. We'll create a brand new user, and we will call him David. What you want to do is when you're creating a brand new user is you want to think carefully about giving them master rights or not. And here is why it's kind of like a loaded question. It's kind of like a catch-22. If you check master rights, you will never have to worry about them not being able to do something in Goldmine. And what I mean by that is that I get a lot of calls by people that say, I just can't do something in Goldmine that everyone else can do. And the answer is, unfortunately, almost always to turn on their master rights and just kind of like get on with everyone's day. And that's good for the most part. But enabling master rights also gives, say, the angry terminated user the ability to like delete contact records and do just, general tomfoolery and mischief if anyone was so inclined. I've never seen it. I've never seen a Goldmine user care enough to really damage a Goldmine installation, but I guess it is possible. So I guess, the proper way would be to actually not have them have master rights and then work other parts of your security model around that. Now, what I'm really trying to get at here is the menu. Now, I guess why I'm talking about master rights is that because if we leave them with their master rights on, anything we do in here doesn't matter. Anything we do in here is going to be trumped by master rights, and that's a good general rule of thumb, is that master rights is kind of like your trump card. So we want to make sure that's off. And now, the menu tab acts and behaves as you might expect it to. For every menu tree here at the top level, I can turn things on and off for the end user. So in this case, I want to turn off things like, oh yeah, wow, global replace, not good. No, copy move records, not good. Delete records, oh heaven forbid. Territory alignment, I don't know, sounds dangerous. Move link docs, oh hell no. Create default relationship trees, oh my good lord. I have a funny story about that, which I'll tell you someday. It's not happy. So there's a lot of things in here, user settings, you don't want to screw around with users, so there's a lot of things here you want to remove from the end user. And not only as a, say, security standpoint, but you also want to make it, nice on the end user. You want to make it easy on that beginning Goldmine person to know and friendly navigate their top-level menu. So what I actually also end up doing is taking away a lot of stuff. So under, say, complete. This is a big deal. The complete menu in Goldmine is a big deal for the new user because I always get the question, well, what should I use? What should I use? What's good to use? Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, anyone who's used Goldmine knows it doesn't necessarily matter what you use here. The big thing that I try to drive people towards is just use a call on an appointment for now. So if you want to make it really easy on the end user, you want to cut down on those tech support calls, remove everything but what the end user has to deal with. So in this case, they are only in charge of completing calls and appointments. That's it. Now let's go ahead and hit OK. And we're going to log in as David now. Did you know you could do this by going to File, Switch User? So now under David's Schedule menu, oh, that's interesting. He still has lit request and all that. Let's go take another peek at that. Always happy when stuff doesn't work, you know? Oops. Let's take it away from the schedule as well. See, even I'm confused by it, and I'm a veteran. So you see how easy it is for people to get mucked up a little. Okay. Second verse, same as the first. We're going to switch our user back to David and demonstrate what the hell I was trying to do. Was clean up his menu items here. So we see here we have only a few items available. This can make it really easy on the end user to, just effectively use Goldmine. They don't have to sweat bullets. And you wouldn't believe the amount of calls I get about what menu item to use, what activity type to use. People really do care because people are good, darn it. And in this case, we can only schedule a call, an appointment, or a Goldmine email. And from my tools menu, most of my sharp tools have been taken away. I probably want to go back in there and remove things like data management or databases. I want to take away to do like maintain database or new database. You never know what people are going to poke around in. Let's log back in as my master user. I'm going to go back to my user settings and back to David's properties and back to his menu tag. The only other thing I want to show you here is that when you make someone just the way you want them, you can save this menu as a template. And that can make it easy to apply to other people, like in this case, maybe Bob's a brand new Goldmine user. We can bring up his properties here and just apply our new end user template here. Thusly. You do have to go one by one, like into every user, so it is a bit of a pain in the butt. Not much I can do for you there, but you don't have to go through every single menu item anymore. So I hope you enjoyed this month's edition of the Goldmine Tips and Tricks webinar. I would love to know what you guys would like to see on the tips and tricks. You can always reach out to me. I'm trying to get my PowerPoint up. You can always reach out to me at justin@marksgroup.net. Thanks so much for attending, and have a great day.